Hello everybody, in today's video we're going to be focusing on the different things that actually make players really good at Call of Duty. Obviously there's accuracy, being able to hit your shots, but there's so many other elements that go into it. So since my channel is all about helping players improve, what we're going to do is focus on overall positioning, map awareness, pre-aiming, spawn prediction, as well as a few other COD related skills. So if you'd actually like to improve at Call of Duty, I highly recommend you hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you'll be able to find your way back to the channel. Also, for anyone watching, I'd really appreciate if you hit that like button if you enjoy the video or find it helpful in any way, because it does allow the video to get seen by more people. So as far as the gameplay goes, we're going to talk a little bit about Domination and Hardpoint on the map Grind. We do have that 24/7 playlist, so if you're interested in playing Grind, a throwback map from Black Ops 2, it is currently the featured playlist, and once it's gone, it still will be part of the regular map rotation. So the first thing that I mentioned at the beginning is positioning. So how positioning works is typically if you run head-to-head against someone, it is a 50-50 gunfight. And in those 50-50 engagements, there's a lot of different variables. It's your overall movement, what gun you're using versus the other player. For example, if they're using an Auger DMR, they land 2 shots, and you're using the GKS, odds are you're going to lose that gunfight. No matter if you're the highest skilled person possible, they land 2 shots back to back without missing, you don't really have much of a chance. And there are a few other scenarios that go along with that, and that's if you come around the corner and maybe there's 2 enemies and it's just you. Odds are, unless you're really good with your movement and you're very accurate and the players are maybe a little bit less skilled, you're probably not going to win that gunfight. The exception to that is maybe if you have a prioritizing issue. So for example, if you come around the corner and you see one enemy is looking directly at you and one's looking away, the one that is looking at you actually poses a larger threat, so you want to prioritize that one first and then go ahead and move on to the one that's looking away, and you'll often be able to get that double kill. Whereas if you focus on the one that's not looking at you, the other one that's looking directly at you is going to have a chance to kill you before you even land a shot back on them. Then you're obviously going to have those scenarios where maybe you're on a head glitch and the enemy's not, and vice versa. Obviously whoever's on the head glitch is in a more dominant position. Doesn't mean you can't win from the non-dominant position, it just makes it a little bit harder. So overall, when it comes to positioning, the thing that I think a lot of people struggle with is how to actually navigate around the map. And I can guarantee if you start thinking about how you navigate the map a little bit differently and focus more on those positions of dominance, not necessarily saying to camp, but as you move around the map, you're thinking, okay, am I going to be in a better spot than the enemy? Avoid as many 50-50s as possible. You're going to win more gunfights because you're going to be at a statistical advantage. So another huge tactic is just pre-aiming in general. You can see right here I'm pre-aiming that doorway. I end up having to turn around and take this guy out, which isn't really involved in that. But for the most part, pre-aiming is very useful, and the main reason for that is because the overall aim down sight and sprint out times are generally slow. They're between 200 to 300 milliseconds, and that's heavily dependent on what weapon class you're using. Obviously pistols have a faster sprint out and aim down sight time than LMGs, and once you combine that information with the time to kill, which is generally between 200 to 400 milliseconds, you end up with a scenario that if someone is running around the corner, technically if you're on the lower end of time to kill, maybe in the 250 millisecond range, you're going to be able to kill that person before they're even able to aim down sight. And if you're using a weapon with a little bit slower time to kill, what you'll end up seeing is the enemy will probably be able to aim down sight and maybe hit you with 1, maybe 2 bullets, but by that time they'll already be dead. So obviously positioning goes along with this. You got to know where you're at on the map. You got to know where enemies are likely to come through. You can see I'm kind of pre-aiming that section because I feel like someone's coming around the corner. End up shooting a couple shots there. Feels like it was more than one person, so I kind of back off. And you see me get hit with the opposite example. This guy was just pre-aiming that doorway. As I come through, he pretty much just takes me out. And that's going to go ahead and bring us to the next topic, which is map awareness. And this is knowing where your teammates are, kind of trying to predict where the enemies are, or if you have a UAV, have a higher likelihood of knowing where the enemies exactly are on the minimap. And unfortunately, when they developed the game, they decided not to include one of the more valuable score streaks when it comes to actually having map awareness, and that is an advanced UAV, a VSAT, a hater, whatever you call it. They do not currently have it in the game. They said it was a little bit too much having recon in the game because you could do the vision pulse and use the sensor darts. But technically, if no one's using that and I'm playing solo, if I want that map information, I can't have it. If someone's running Ghost, there's just no way to see them. So if you end up in a scenario where there are people running Ghost, you kind of just got to use your best guess. You can look at the minimap and you can see these vacant holes on the minimap. And a lot of times where these vacant spots are, these big old voids, that's where enemies will be. And there's still a ton of information you can get from that minimap. Obviously, you're going to see specifically where your teammates are spawning in. So you're going to have a good indication where the spawns are. We're going to get into spawns in a minute. I'm going to actually talk about the specific spawns on this map. Depending on what mode you play, it changes slightly. Obviously with a hard point, you always have those rotating spawns. For the most part, the spawns are fairly consistent and easy to predict. And sometimes another tool in your repertoire is the death skull. A lot of times people don't even notice these on the screen because you see them so often. A lot of times you just kind of get blind to them and the fact that they actually pop up every time one of your teammates dies. So let's go ahead and take a look at a simplified version of the map grind. You can see on the far right there's some spawns, on the far left there's some spawns. Those little green circles are kind of where the hot spots are and pretty much where you're going to get into the most possible gunfights. And then that blue line at the top is the path of least resistance. And I've kind of talked about that concept in some of my prior videos, but pretty much how that line works is that is the least traveled area on the map and the best possible route if you're trying to flank. And you're actually seeing a little bit of that in the gameplay. I'm actually flanking around this left side. You can see I'm kind of coming all the way around on the map, and you're going to see how easy it is to get these kills. These enemies are completely focused on the middle of the map. They have no clue that I'm actually coming around. I do have a suppressor, so I'm going to take out the first guy, peek out, take out the second, and you can see the guy literally spawns right behind me because that is such a strong spawn. I back off, and now I'm kind of pushing towards the middle of the map, and you can kind of see I'm waiting for my streaks to come in. I call on my strike team, I'm pre-aiming this, seeing if a guy's going to come through, and I'm paying attention to the minimap, waiting for the strike team to come in. So that sometimes is a good strategy. Get your streaks in that area, your teammates should be able to push up. As you're getting kills, you are gaining the map control and you're locking down the enemies within their spawn. And that's typically a general rule of thumb for domination. You never want to triple cap unless you're behind by enough points that triple capping is the only way you'll win. You can see I'm still kind of pushing in spawn, not going so deep as to flip them, and I'm kind of rotating back. Obviously what ends up happening in these scenarios, sometimes your teammates will push too far and then it ends up flipping the spawns. You can see they went ahead and capped A, and that's what threw off the spawns. Not the fact that I was over there, that literally the teammates triple capped and then that pushed the spawns to the other side. But I was able to immediately recognize that, and then I went ahead and pushed back over to C, and that's going to allow me to get some easy kills. Pretty much I'm pre-aiming. I didn't shoot the guy at first. I waited a little bit, and then once he jumped on C, I'm able to get that kill. And you can see right now that we actually have total map control, but sometimes in this scenario it gets a little bit wild. The strike team's still helping out. People are trying to jump on C, and that's pretty much what I'm doing. I'm just keeping them off of C, taking a different angle when I can, and just kind of rotating back and forth. I skipped a little bit further ahead. The dog is chasing me down. I end up taking these guys out. It's really the end of the match. We end up dominating, kept calling those streaks in. You can see right here I died in the last second, but I still ended up going 65-4. And even though I don't have a ton of caps, you kind of saw I was positioning on the map. And that is why map control is so important in objective game modes. A lot of times people think it's how many times you could jump on the flag and flip the spawns. But more often than not, those are the individuals that end up ruining the match altogether. So as part of that grind featured playlist, they also include Hardpoint, which is actually pretty cool because in the comment section, a few people were asking, could I include a little bit more Hardpoint gameplay? Because generally they never see YouTubers actually play Hardpoint. And I'm being 100% honest and transparent with you. The main reason you don't see that is because generally YouTubers are just trying to show off their gun skill. They're going to go on these high kill streaks, and that has nothing to do with playing the objective. They don't want 101 comments saying, hey dude, you're not playing the objective. And to be honest, Hardpoint is one of the harder modes to play because the spawns get a little bit wonky. And what I mean by that is as the hill rotates from point A to point B to point C to point D to those various rotation points, the spawns rotate as well. They do not have those fixed spawns that we saw on that other screenshot that I showed a little bit earlier. And one thing that I think a lot of newer players get caught up with is their hill time. You can see right now I'm not on the hill, but I was keeping people off the hill. I was blocking that doorway. I shot 2 people that they were coming through that way. Then I pushed around the spawn while my teammates are just sitting in the hill uncontested. In a previous video, I did cover how to play Hardpoint, and I kind of went through the different roles because there are different roles and those roles tend to change based off your position throughout the match. So it's very fluid. One moment you're going to be a Slayer, the next one you're probably going to be an Anchor, and the next one you're going to be the Objective player. It all just depends on what's going on with you and the rest of your team. So generally the Objective player is the one that's going to spend the most time on the hill. They're always trying to be on the hill. They are that Objective player. They shoot people trying to invade their space. But for the most part, they're just kind of locking down the actual hill location. Then you have someone called an Anchor. And what the Anchor does is they go ahead and try and rotate early so that they can get spawns for the next hill. So for example, if I know that the hill is going to rotate to a certain section of the map, what I'll do is kind of camp out in the spawns until the rotation happens, and then my teammates will spawn there. Because an objective game mode like Hardpoint is all about the numbers. If I'm one person sitting in the hill and then there's 4 enemies rushing in, odds are, unless those players are very bad, I'm gonna die within the hill. And that's only with certain hills that you need to rotate early. For example, with this half pipe one, it's pretty neutral. It's pretty much equidistant on each side of the map. So regardless if you're spawning on the far right side of the map or the far left, you're going to have an equal opportunity to jump on this hill. And that last position is going to be the Slayer. And typically the person is just chasing kills, obviously with an objective oriented mind where they're actually keeping people off of the objective, kind of rotating around and generally stopping enemies getting from where they are to where they actually want to be. And the problem you typically run into when you play Call of Duty is that pretty much everyone wants to be the Slayer. So people are not rotating early to get that next kill. People are not playing the objective. There's just a lot of TDM action going on within Hardpoint. But inevitably, that's what happens when you play Call of Duty pubs. People are always chasing after those kills. So here's an example of anchoring in action. You can see where I'm positioned. We just took out some enemies and now my teammates spawned in and the hill just rotated. So we have good spawns for this hill and pretty much we're just going to lock down the area. So hopefully you like the tips and they'll help you improve. If you did, please remember to hit that like button. If you're brand new to the channel, you'd like to find your way back, please make sure you do subscribe with notifications on and we'll see you on the next one. Appreciate all the support. Thank you for watching. As always, have a great day.